In this video, you will learn LINQ in just 2 hours. The video is divided into 2 parts. In part 1, I will explain why LINQ is useful by using an example. Then we will create our own LINQ-like method. Then I will talk about deferred execution in LINQ. And finally cover the method versus the query syntax. And in part 2, I'm going to cover all the LINQ methods and use both the method and the query syntax. Okay? Like and subscribe, and let's get to it. Let's first of all clone the repository from GitHub. So it's this page right here. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. So this isn't necessary for the first part, but let's just do it now so we have everything. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, code, and get this link URL. Or you can just download the zip folder. It doesn't really make much difference in this case, but I'm just gonna clone it. So I have a folder here for that. I'm gonna git bash here, so I'm using git bash on Windows, and just say git clone and paste the URL, and there we go. Okay, now right click it and open with Visual Studio. So 2022 is the version. Okay, so here I'm gonna double click this Learn LINQ solution, get into it, and here is what we need. So all this stuff here, this food types, person, reservation, restaurant, and this just contains the data I will use for most of the video. And this is just so we don't have to write this ourselves. We can focus on LINQ. So let's say here, what do I have? I have this food class with ID, name, food type, and price. And the toString here, food type, so meat, fruit, and vegetables. This person class. And these two here, reservation and restaurant, are just for the last part of the video. Okay, and then this data here is made up of all of that. Okay, so anyway, let's go to program CS and get started with LINQ. So what is LINQ? What is it used for? LINQ is used to easily query data. It works by default with .NET collections, SQL data, and XML files, but can actually work with any type of data if you create a custom LINQ provider. And when working with LINQ, you're actually always working with C# objects. So let's now see an example of where LINQ would help us. Let me get rid of all of this. So say we had an array of strings and we wanted to check if any word was uppercase. We could write something like this. So I'm going to say bool, and is any word uppercase, and here I'll pass an IEnumerable string words, and now loop through the words. So for each var word in words, and now I'll say here bool all are uppercase, I'll set to true. And now I'll loop through each character in the word. And I get help here, so I'm just gonna tab and rename this to letter and this to word. And in here I'll say if char is lower and pass the letter. In that case, I'll say that all are uppercase is false. Okay. And I see now that I actually haven't closed the method, so there we go. And after this inner for each loop, I'm gonna say if all are uppercase, I will return true. And by default, I will return false. Okay, so something like this. And now I will create a string of words. So var words is gonna be equal to new, I meant an array of strings I'll create. So new, and here I'll say red, green, and blue. and Control D to duplicate that, and this one I'll call words no uppercase, and this one words with uppercase. Okay, and let's just make this green here uppercase, for example. So we have that, and now I'll console log this, and before that let me just do a console read line. Okay, so CW, and now I'll call the method, so is any word uppercase, and pass the first array, so words no uppercase, Control D, and this one will be words with uppercase. Okay, like so, and I'm just missing a closing parenthesis there, like so. So let's F5 and see what we get, and we get false and true, which is correct. So this works, but it is much easier to use LINQ. Let's see. Now let me just copy actually this method and paste it here. So I'll call this one is any word uppercase LINQ. Okay, and then I'll return words any, word fat arrow, word all, and letter fat arrow, char is upper, and the letter. And of course I'll explain how LINQ works as we move along in the video, but for now let's just make sure that this actually works. So as you can see, this is just one line, and let me copy these and paste them here. So this will be a LINQ. Okay, and I'm hitting Control space there to finish the name, and let's F5 again, and we get the same result, but this time using just one line. Okay, also note that for the most part LINQ queries execute only when the result is needed, which is great for performance, and I will get back to this point later on. Let's now start creating our own LINQ-like method. So here I'll get rid of everything except for that console read line. So say we wanted to write a method that checks if any integer in a collection is greater than 100. We could write something like this: bool is any greater than 100, and pass an array of ints here, call this numbers, and now loop through. So for each number in numbers, and if number is greater than 100, we return true. Okay, and false otherwise. Now what if we wanted to check if any number was even? The method would be nearly identical. So let me Control D this to duplicate and call this is any even. Okay, so the only change is here. Instead of this, we just do this, and let's have an array of numbers here. So say here 1, 4, 6, for example, 29, 250, for example. And now let's console log these methods and see if they work. Let me just copy the name. Okay, and call the method and pass numbers here like so, another closing parenthesis there, Control D dot, and get this word. So in Visual Studio it's Control W to select the whole word. Okay, paste the name and here the method, and let's see, F5, and we get true for both, which is indeed the case. Okay, so what now if we wanted to check if any number is 0? Again, we would write a method that would be nearly identical to the two we already have, right? So let's actually extract this part, which is the only part that changes. So after this method, I'm gonna have another one, say bool is greater than 100, and pass a number in here and return number greater than 100. Okay, and now instead of this here, we can call that method, so is greater than 100, and pass the number in here. Okay, and close that, and let's do the same. Copy the method here, so this would be is even, and return this. Let me just copy it so I don't have to write it. Okay, and now in here say is even and pass the number. Close that, and now let's F5 again and see if this still works. Okay, I have a bit of a problem with the parenthesis. Let's just see. Oh, here I have one. Okay, so F5 again, and we get true still. Okay, so basically what we want to do is to merge this method with this method right here. And to do that, we need to create a method that accepts a function as its parameter. And in C#, that's possible using func. So let's do that. Let me get rid of these methods. So this one and this one. Okay. And these two console writes. Let me just get this up there like so. And let's write that method now. So I'm gonna say here bool is any. And so first I'll pass an array of numbers, but then I'll pass func, which accepts an int and returns a bool. Okay, and predicate is the name here, which is fine. So in case you don't know how func works, you pass here as many parameters as you want, so I can do this for example, but what is last is what's returned. Okay, but we need only one int here and we return a bool. So anyway, let's now loop through the numbers again. So for each number in numbers, if predicate and number, we return true, otherwise return false. Okay, so now here I can say bool, and again I'll call this is any greater than 100, and have that be equal to the is any method, and pass numbers here, and then this method, right? So copy that and paste it here, and no parentheses because we're not invoking it, we're just passing it as an argument here. And Control D this for the other one, so is any even, and pass what's it called is even. Okay, so just paste that there, and let's console log this again. So is any greater than 100, and pass the variable here. Control D is any even, and pass here is any even. Okay, so let's F5 this and see if it works, and it does. Okay, we get true still, so it works fine. So our code still does the same thing, but is getting better and better, right? And let's make this is any method even more powerful by making it generic. So let me copy and paste after these console writes, and I'm gonna call this is any generic and pass t in here. And now instead of an array of integers, this is gonna be an I enumerable of t. Okay, and this is called numbers. Here I'm just gonna leave it as that, even though it can be anything now. And this won't be an int but a t. Okay, so now this method can work with collections of any type. Let's see. Let's create an array of words. So var words is going to be equal to, and red, green, blue again. And now let's check if any of these words is greater than 5 characters. So I'm going to say bool is any length 5. And that's going to be equal to is any generic words. And for the second argument, I'm going to use a lambda expression, so an anonymous function now. Okay, so I'll say word fat arrow and word length greater. Actually, let's just make sure it's actually 5. Be specific, so this green, and control CW, that is console right line, copy the name there, paste that here, and paste that like so. And let's see, F5. So is any length 5 and true. Okay. Let's now see the source code for the links any method. I'm gonna say here bool is any 0 and numbers any. Okay, so a link method, and x fat arrow x equals 0. Okay, I got some help there. So the point is the definition of this any. Let's control click it. And first of all, it has this here because it's an extension method, but here it has func with t source and bool. Okay, and then it has these checks, but after that it has this, which is the same as our method. So our method is nearly identical to this link method. Okay. If you remember, I mentioned in the beginning that LINQ queries usually execute only when the result is needed. And this is what's called deferred execution. And it can greatly improve performance, especially when you have to manipulate large data collections. Okay, so let's see an example. I'm going to have an array of words here, a list actually. So say new list of string. And here I'll have A, double B, triple C, and for these. Okay. Let's now filter this list and get only words that contain less than 3 characters. So I'm going to say here var short words and words where, and this is LINQ, of course, a LINQ method. I just tapped there to get some help. So say here x fat arrow x length is less than 3. Okay. And let's now loop through. So for each word in short words and console right line word. Okay. So if I F5 this, I get A and BB, which is correct. So the point here is that this line isn't executed. This query that isn't executed on this line. Okay. This is just the query, not the data. The execution, also called materialization, is delayed until the result is actually needed, which happens in the for each loop here. So thanks to that deferred execution, we always work with the latest data. So here, after the for each loop, if I add another word to words, so words add, and let's say E, a single E, and loop through again, okay, and let me just console log here first iteration, and copy that, paste here second iteration. So let's see what happens now, and you can see that we get just A and B for the first one, and E also for the second one only. Okay, so that's deferred execution. Again, the execution doesn't happen here. That's why even though we add this here, we don't see it in this for each loop. Okay. And if we were to materialize this query right here, then we would never see this E. Okay, so to materialize it, I'm going to say here toList that will materialize it. And now if I have 5, we don't get T, okay? Because this query actually contains the data at that point, okay? Let's see some more examples of deferred execution. So imagine we had a query like this. Okay, so we want to retrieve all the people in the world that are over 18. So if this query was executed right here, it would retrieve all those people, right? Which would be, I guess, billions. But what if we wanted to take, for example, only 100 at a time? We could do this, var take 100, and all people in the world over 18 take 100. Okay, and now only when this data is actually needed would we retrieve it. Okay, so I'm sure you can imagine how much that would impact performance. And let me comment this out, Control-K-C, just so this actually compiles. Let's see another interesting example of deferred execution. I'm gonna have a list of names here. So say here John, Mary, Bob, and Jack. And now let's say I want to retrieve only the names that start with J. Okay, so I'm gonna say var names start with J, and that would be equal to names where name fat arrow. And by the way, this can be anything. I usually use just X, but sometimes I want to be more descriptive. And now I need actually curly braces here because I'm gonna have 2 lines. So first of all, I'll have a console write line and say here check in name, and then return name starts with J. And this can be actually single quotes because it's a single character. Okay. Let me just maybe bring this down and tap this in a bit. And now let's loop through the names that start with J, that is, so for each name in name start with J, okay, and console write line name. Okay, so what do you think will happen now? If we forgot about deferred execution, we would think that this would be printed 4 times, and then this for each loop would run. But because of deferred execution, that's not the case. So if I run this file, let's see, and we can see the result we get. So it seems like the query is being executed at the same time as the for each loop iterates. And that is exactly what is happening. The filtering and the execution are intertwined. Okay? LINQ queries can be written using either the method syntax or the query syntax. Let's write a simple query that orders a collection by certain criteria using both syntaxes. Okay, so I'm going to have var numbers here and create an array of numbers. So let's say 1, 10, 5, 8, 3, 2. Okay, and now I want to retrieve and order numbers that are less than 5. So I'm going to say here var small number method syntax and say numbers where number is less than 5 and order by number and fat arrow number. Okay. Let me just bring this down so it's easier to see. So this is it. And let's do the same thing using the query syntax. So Control D this to duplicate. So small numbers, this is supposed to be plural, query syntax and numbers here. Okay. So here I'm gonna say from number in numbers. And again, this is the one that can be named anything, but this is the actual source of the data, where number is less than 5, order by number, and select number. Okay, So let's see if this gives us the exact same thing. Console right line, copy and paste, and a space here, and let's say here string join and comma space and pass small numbers method syntax, and Control D and query syntax, paste here as well. Okay, F5, and we get the same result. Okay, so which one is better, you might ask? It mostly comes down to personal preference, but also not everything that is supported by the method syntax is supported by the query syntax, so sometimes you have to mix them if you use the query syntax, which you'll see throughout the video. And also some things are easier to write one way, such as joins. Joins are much easier to write, for example, using the query syntax. Okay, and I'll cover all that as we move along in the video. The any method checks if any element matches some criteria. So let's check, for example, if any number is greater than 10, and we have numbers here in data, numbers right here. Okay, so I'm gonna say var is any greater than 10, and data, import that. So data numbers any, and x fat arrow x greater than 10. Okay, let's console log this. So Control W to get a word, paste that here and that, F5, and we get true. Okay, let's check if any food is meat. So let me actually just copy this. So is any food meat, and that's in data food. And here we can say, let's say food, but again this can be X, but let's say food, and then change this as well just to be more descriptive. So food name is equal to meat. And let's actually also check Control D that if any food type is fruit. So let's check if, let me Control D this, if for example any meat is chicken. So is any meat chicken, and this is gonna be data food, and X name, get rid of this, is equal to chicken. Okay, let's copy and paste that here. And you can be more descriptive here. So let's say food, for example, and just be a bit more descriptive. Doesn't really make a difference. F5. Okay, true. And let's say fish here, and just see what we get. So is any name, food name fish, and we get false. Okay, so that works. Let me just get back to chicken here. And let's Control D this one more time and check if any food is fruit. So is any food fruit? And this is now gonna be food type. Okay, so food type fruit, and just replace these, F5. Of course this is supposed to be food type fruit. Okay, F5 now, and we get true. Okay, and let's now check for two conditions. So I'm gonna say here var is name length and odd ID. Okay, so data food any, and food fat arrow food name length. So let's say greater than 8, and food ID odd. Okay. And let me just maybe bring this down like so. This as well. Okay. And let's copy and paste the right line there, and copy and paste this. And we get true. So that would be grapefruit right here. And we can also check that the collection is not empty. So let's say here var is not empty, data food any, so no parameters. And again, let me just copy and paste that line. So is there any, are there any, that is in food? And we get true, is not empty. Okay. All checks that all elements match the given criteria. All checks that all the elements match the given criteria. So let's, for example, check if all numbers are greater than 0. So I'm going to say here all greater than 0, and this is supposed to be all then, and x greater than 0 here. Okay, let's just copy and paste this, F5, let's see. Okay, true. Let's now check if all food is priced, so Control D actually this, and say here is all food priced, and this is supposed to be priced. So now data food and x price now greater than 0. Okay, so copy and paste F5 and true. Okay, and let's also check if there is only meat. So is there only meat, data food all, and this is gonna be x food type equal to food type meat. Okay, and copy and paste F5, and we get false, which is correct. Okay, count elements in a collection based on some criteria, if any. Let's see. Let's count meat. So I'm going to say here var count meat, and this is going to be data food, Control W here, count. Okay, and this is going to be x food type is equal to food type meat. So let's just copy paste F5, and we get 3. Okay, let's Control D this. There is also the long count, which should be used when we expect the result to be greater than the maximum value of int, which is over 2 billion. But let's just use it now. So let's say here count chicken meat, and so this is gonna be a long count, and where x name is chicken. Okay, let's see F5, and we get to 1. So of course it's an overkill to use long count here, but just as an example. Let's count meat that's cheaper than 6. So let me Control D. So meat cheaper than 6, and let's just change this back to count. So this is gonna be x food type and food type meat and x price less than 6. Okay, let me just bring this down like so, maybe this as well. Okay, and copy and paste F5, and we have 2. So let's check meat. We have chicken and pork, and both are below 6. Beef is more than 6. Okay, so that is indeed correct. And finally, let's count all the foods. So var food count, that's going to be equal to data food and count with no arguments. Okay, let me just copy and paste the console right line, copy and paste this F5, and the total count is 7. Okay, contains checks if a given element is present in the collection. So let's see here, check that this is 6 present, and this is going to be data numbers and contains, and simply pass 6 here. Okay, so copy and paste, and let's also check for strings. So we have this array of words here. Okay, so let's check for that as well. Let's say here is lion present. So this is going to be data words and contains lion, and copy and paste, and we get true for both. Okay, order by orders a collection by some criteria. So let's say here food ordered by name, and then here data food and order by, so x fat arrow x name. Okay, and let's just copy and paste that there. But let me have a new line here actually, and here say string join, because now this will be a collection. So let's actually just do it like this now. Okay, it's a collection, so I'm gonna say here string join, and have a new line here as well actually. One more parenthesis, let me just bring this down so it's easier to see, and F5, let's see what we get, and we get food ordered by name alphabetically. Okay, this can also be descending, so let me Control D and just add desk here, and this will be order by descending. Okay, I just Control space there to finish the whatever this was. So copy and paste, and let's see, and there we go, descending order. Okay, and let's also order the numbers. So var ordered numbers is gonna be data, and I should have copied this, but it's too late now, order by and XX, or let's just say number here just to be more descriptive. Okay, and let's just copy this and paste it here, and I'm not sure if the numbers are actually ordered right now. Let's see, they are actually. Okay, so let's just add 100 here. Okay, and what's missing here, let's say an 11. Okay, so F5, and there we go. Okay, and finally we can also order by multiple values. Okay, so I'm gonna say here var food ordered by type then name. Okay, and let me actually just copy and paste this. So just copy and paste that. So order by, and this will be food type. Let me just paste this out a bit like so, and then I'm gonna say then by. Okay, and this will be XX name, and you can have as many of these then bys as you want. Okay, let me just bring this down so it's easier to see. So something like this, and copy and paste like so. Okay, F5, and there we go, type and then name. So you see all meats and then fruits and then vegetables. Okay, and there is also then by descending as well. Okay, so here we have pork, chicken, beef, for example, even though first three are meats because we are ordering first by food type, but then what was it? It's pork, chicken, beef, but if it's not descending, it's beef, chicken, pork. Okay. Min and max find the smallest and largest values in a collection. So let's say here smallest, and this is gonna be data numbers and min. Okay. with no arguments. And let me also find the largest one. So this will be max. And get rid of this. So console write line and smallest Control D, largest. And we get 1 and 100. Okay, great. Let's also find the smallest and biggest price. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this and say here min price, and this will be, so Control W to select the word max price, and data food min, but I need to pass now here a lambda expression. So min what? Min price. Okay, and here the same thing, and this is supposed to be food. Control space, there we go. Okay, whoops, paste, copy, paste, F5, and there we go. Okay, now let's say we do var min food equal to data food min, so no arguments like we did with numbers. And let's actually just see what happens. Let me copy and paste this and that, F5, and we get an exception. Okay, at least one object must implement I-comparable. So the reason here is that the C# runtime can't tell what we mean. Okay, min what in food. For numbers it knows, but for food it doesn't know. So let's implement I-comparable and just make it work. So in where is it, food, right here. Okay, I'm gonna say here I-comparable food, and it says here that we have an error. So show potential fixes, implement interface. Okay, and we get this compare to, and now we can compare it to whatever we specify. So get rid of this, and I will say here return price and compare to other price, like so. Okay, so we want to compare it by price, and now it will know what we mean. So F5 now, and min food is cabbage, which costs 0.89, which is the smallest price. Okay, and finally, if a collection is empty, an exception will be thrown. So I'm just gonna say here var empty numbers equal to new int 0, and say here var min empty numbers equal to empty numbers and min. Okay, and let's see what happens. F5, and we get an exception. Sequence contains no elements. Okay, average finds the average value and works only with numbers. So I'm going to say here var average, data numbers average. Okay, and let's just console log this. So average, F5, and it's this. Okay, let's find the average price of food. So Control D that. Let's see average food price, and let's just change this. So that's gonna be food, but because this is food now, we need to actually pass a parameter here. So average of what? Average of price. Okay, and F5, and it's 3 point something. Okay, and for this as well, an empty collection throws an exception. Okay, some calculates the sum of values and works only with numbers. So let's say here sum numbers, data numbers sum. Okay, let me just replace these. And here as well sum food price, so data food sum price, and just change this F5, and there we go, that's the total. And if a collection is empty, let's see here var empty numbers, new int 0, and var sum empty, so empty number sum. Let's see what happens now. And we get 0 here, actually, there's no exception, okay, so it just gives us the default. ElementAt is used to access an element at a given index. And of course, if we are using arrays or lists, we don't need LINQ. So if, let's say here I say first number, and then just data number 0 here, and let's just console log this, and let's do the same for actually food. I'm gonna say here first food list, okay, so this is gonna be data food, but I'm gonna say to list, and let me just change this and have that first element there. So if I F5 this, we get 1 and the first food, okay? But not all collections support using the indexer. For example, IEnumerable doesn't, which is actually this data food, okay? And that's where the ElementAt comes in. So I'm gonna say here, and actually let me copy this, Control D. So first food link. Okay, and now I'm not gonna say here to list, I'm gonna say ElementAt 0, and change this and get rid of that, F5, and there we go, we still get the first element. Okay, no index throws an exception, so var no index, let's say data food element at 100, so it doesn't exist. And let me copy and paste. So let's see what happens here, F5, and we get an exception out of range, okay. But we can use or default instead, so Control D and Control KC to comment out this one, so ElementAt or default, okay. So for integers this will be 0, and for food here it will be null. So let's see what happens, and this is basically null, okay. First and last return the first and last elements, so here I can change this 0 index to first, okay. Let's F5, and we get 1. Let me Control D this, let's find the first even number. So first, and pass here x, and x modulus 2 is equal to 0. And let's just copy this, so we get 6 here. And if we check our data, that is indeed the first even number, okay. And let's find the last vegetable, so Control D that, let's see here last vegetable, and this will be data food last, but where x food type is equal to food type vegetables, okay. So copy and paste F5, and that's it, cabbage. If we try to find something that doesn't exist, an exception is thrown, so let me actually Control D this and say last vegetable over 100. Or actually, let's just make this last food over 100. So data food price where X price is over 100. Get rid of that. Let's see. F5. And we get an exception. Sequence contains no matching element. Okay. But here again we can use or default. So let me Control KC that to comment it out and say here last or default. Okay. Let's F5 now. And we don't get any result, but there's no exception either. OrderBy is often used with first and last. So let's find the most expensive food. Let me copy that and say here most expensive food. So this will be data food order by and just price and then say last. Okay, and let's see. And we get beef. Okay. Single returns a single element that matches the given criteria. If there is more than one or none, an exception is thrown. So let's see. Let's say here single greater than 100. So I'm gonna say here single and x greater than 100. Let me copy and paste this and let me actually see what I even have here. So there are none actually over 100. So let's add one. Let's just add 200 there. Okay, so F5 and we get 200. Okay, but what if we also have 300 here? Now we get an exception. Okay, because we have more than one match. There is also single or default, so let's see what happens if we use that. And we still get an exception because the sequence contains more than one matching element. Okay, but if we say here single or default over 300, which doesn't exist, we get 0, which is the default. Okay. And of course, if we just use single, it's going to throw an exception. Okay. Where filters a collection based on the predicate, it's an often used method. Very useful. Okay, so let's get here all even numbers. Let me say all even numbers. So data numbers where and x modulus 2 is equal to 0. And let's copy and paste and have a new line here and here say string join and a new line here as well. Okay, so let's see. And here's the list, or the collection that is. Let's see if we try, what happens if we try to find non-existent numbers, so all even numbers over 300, which I believe we don't have. Let me just check. Okay, 300 is the largest one. So this and x over 300. Let me just copy and paste this, and no result and no exception. Okay, let's now search for a very specific food. So let me call this very specific food, and that's gonna be data food where. So first I'm gonna have parentheses here and say x food type is food type fruit or X food type is food type vegetables. Okay, and where the price is lower than 2, less than 2, and where the ID is even. Okay, so let me bring this down so we can actually see what's happening here, like so. And let me also copy and paste that. Okay, so copy this, paste here and here. So let's see what happens. And we get 1, which is cabbage. Okay, let's try odd as well. And now we get 3 results. Okay, you can also pass indexes and then filter within that range. Okay, so for that, let me just copy, for example, this one. And before that, let me have the selected indexes. So new and new array, and I'll say 0 and 3 here. Okay, and now I'll call this food selected indexes. So this will be data food where, and let me get rid of everything here. So I'm going to have parentheses because I want to pass 2 arguments here. So I'm going to say food, which was just X before, right? It can be X still, but I'm just going to say food to be more descriptive, and pass the index as well. And now I have the fat arrow. And let me just close the parenthesis as well for where. And I'll say where food price is less than 4 and selected indexes contains, and pass the index here. Okay, and close the parenthesis there. So let me just bring this down like so. There we go. Okay, so let's copy and paste this, and let's see now. We get none. Let's see why. Because these are indexes, right? So this is the first and the fourth element actually in here. So that's chicken and pork. Okay, and if we change this to, let's say, let's find 2 that actually are less than 4. So below 4 we have, for example, grapefruit and rest of the fruits and vegetables. So this is at index 2, this grapefruit. Let's say 2 here. And we do get the grapefruit. Okay, and let's add, for example, cabbage. So that's gonna be index 5. We get cabbage as well. Okay, also note that sometimes you can achieve the same thing using different LINQ methods. Let's say here count of expensive food, and here I'm gonna say data food where X price is over 4 and count. Okay, and I'm also gonna say, so Control D to duplicate, count of expensive food 2, and here I'll just say count and pass this lambda expression right here, so I don't need anything here. And let's see what we get. So console right line and copy this one. Actually, let's just say count here plus that one plus this is the same and 2 at the end, and plus here. Okay, let me just bring that down like so. Okay, So let's see. And we get the exact same thing, but using different LINQ methods. Okay. The take methods take a number of elements from a collection. Let's see. Let's say here first 3 numbers. Okay, let me just get rid of all of this and say here take and 3. And now copy and paste this F5. And here they are. Okay. Let's Control D dot to duplicate. Let's say here more numbers. So what if we take more than there are? Let's say we want to take the first 300 numbers. Okay, so it simply returns what's available. It's okay that it overflows. Let's take class 3, copy and paste this. So this is gonna be last 3 numbers. And take last. Okay, copy and paste this. Let's see. And here they are. Let's take the second largest. So second largest number. So here I'm gonna say data numbers order by XX, and then take last 2 and then first. Okay, and let me actually get rid of that. So here I'm gonna say console write line and just have this because it's just a single number and it's 200. Okay, and finally there is take while. So let me copy and paste, which takes until a certain condition. So let's say here take until 12. Okay, so here I'm gonna say take while and pass x less than or equal to 12. Copy and paste F5. I'm missing here the fat arrow. Okay, and there we go, 1368. Okay. The skip methods are closely related to take and are often used together. Let's see how they work. So let's say here skip 3 numbers. So I'm gonna say here data numbers skip 3 and paste this. Okay, there we go. Let's also skip the last 3. So skip last 3 numbers and say skip last here. Just paste this. Okay. Let me just see what even have here. Yeah, that's 12, 200, and 300. Okay, so it's correct. And skip and take are usually used to or often to create pagination, right? So let's say we want to get the third and fourth food. So I'm going to say var get third and fourth food, data food, skip 2, take 2. Okay, and let me just copy and paste this. And we get grapefruit and pork. Let's see, and it's correct. Okay, and finally skip while. So let me just copy this one. Let me see what we have here. Okay, so let's skip until 100, for example. So skip until 100 and say here skip while. So while x is less than or equal to 100, I guess. Okay, so copy and paste and F5, and we get everything over 100. Okay. Of type filters elements based on type. So let's say I have a bunch of types here like so. Okay. And say I want to get only strings, so I can say var strings objects of type, string. Okay. And now if I console right line this, I get the strings. Okay. And distinct removes all duplicated values from a collection. So let me add a few here. Let's say 1 again, and 3 and 6. Okay. So we have duplicates. I'm gonna stay here var distinct numbers and data. Let me just import that. So data numbers and distinct. Okay. And let me copy and paste that here. Like so, and read line, let me just have it there, F5 now, and there we go, no duplicates. Okay. Prepend and append add elements to the beginning or end of a collection, and as with most LINQ elements, they don't modify the original collection. Okay. So let's say here var append data numbers append 1000, and let's also prepend. So prepend data numbers prepend, and let's say 0, which we don't have. Get rid of this and Control D that. So this is append and prepend. Okay, so append is here, we added 1000, and prepend we added 0, but there's no 1000 here. Okay, again because the original collection isn't actually modified. Concat and Union basically join two collections of the same type. Okay, so I have here these two arrays of integers, and if I say here var all numbers and numbers 1 concat numbers 2. Okay, so let's see what this gives me. Paste that there, and I get all the numbers, and the duplicates remain. Okay, and union is the same thing, but it will eliminate duplicates. So let's Control D this and call this all numbers union. Okay, let's just paste that there, so this will be union, and let's see. Okay, so there we go, the same thing, but no duplicates. So this 3 appears only once. Okay. Select is a very important method. It projects each element in a collection into a new form. Let's see. Let's multiply everything we have here in this numbers array by 2. And let me before that just get rid of these last 3 numbers, or even that. Okay, so something like that, just so it's not too crowded. So I'm gonna say here var doubled numbers data, and I need to import again. So data numbers select x and x times 2. Okay, and let's see, paste that here and here, and there we go. Let's now make all the words uppercase, so Control D this one, uppercase words, so this is gonna be words. Let's just see them, so it's the ones here, they are all lowercase. and select and X fat arrow X to upper. Okay, and let's paste that. Let's see what we get. Okay, we can also change the type of a collection. So let's say here var number to string, data numbers, select, and I'm gonna say number here, fat arrow, and again this can be X. It doesn't make a difference whatsoever. Number to string. Okay, so this works. Let me just put a comment there. Works like so. This will compile, no problem. Let's Control B just to build this. Okay, so no problems here. And if I hover over this, now it's an IEnumerable of string. Okay, type string. We can also pass the index. So let me copy this, paste that here, and actually words I wanted, but it doesn't make a difference. Let's just say numbered words. So data words here then. And because I want to pass the index, if you remember it before, I need to have parentheses here because I'm passing two arguments. So X and I basically, but I'll call it index and word. And then here I'll say $quotes, index and dot space word. Okay, let's just copy this, F5. And there we go, 0, 1, 2. Okay, let's select all the prices. So from food, paste that, prices, so data food select. And you can try to do this yourselves, it's easy. Okay, I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna get rid of all this and say here X and X price. And paste there, let's see, and there we go, those are the prices. We can use multiple LINQ methods with select. Let's get all the foods that are priced over 1. So var food over 1, say data food, where, so food, fat arrow, food, price is over 1, and select food, and this will be food type. Okay, and let me just bring this down like so, copy and paste that. Let's see what we get. So we get meats and fruits, which is correct, but we don't want the duplicates here, so I'm gonna say here also distinct. Okay, let's see now. There we go, just meat and fruit. Okay, let's get the first letter of each food name and order them. So var food first letter, data food order by X fat arrow X name, and then select X fat arrow and X name first. Okay, get rid of this like so. Again, let me bring this down and this as well. Okay, copy and paste that and replace these like so. Let's see. And there we go, from B to P. Okay, and finally let's print multiple values. So var food data, data food, select X, and I'm gonna have the $ and double quotes, and say food name is in here, that is X name. Okay, of type X food type, and price and $ X price. Okay, let me again bring this down so it's a bit easier to see, like so. And once again, copy and paste this, F5, and there we go, okay? SelectMany executes nested for each loops and is most often used to flatten nested collections, which is actually pretty amazing. Let's see. So here in data, I have these people here, okay? So when we create a new person, the third parameter here is actually a collection. So if I get rid of that, actually say here var people food and data people select, get rid of that, and food here. Let me copy and paste, F5. Okay, so I get this, which is to be expected. But if I use SelectMany, as you can see, automatically it gets flattened. Okay, let's get food of people whose names start with J. So copy and paste this. So people start with J. And I'm gonna have a where here before the SelectMany. So where XX name starts with J. And close the parenthesis there. SelectMany X food, that's correct. And also select XX name. Okay. Let me again just bring this down so we can see what's happening here. Okay, and copy and paste, and there we go. So how amazing is this? And if we used select here, it's not gonna work, right? Even now it doesn't work. Okay, let's have a nested list of numbers. So var nested list of numbers, new list of lists of ends, and say here new, and 1, 2, 3 is fine. Control D that twice and close the curly brace there. And now I want to get the sum of these. Okay, so var sum, nested list of numbers, SelectMany, x fat arrow x, and sum. And this is supposed to be SelectMany. Okay, and console write line, and let me actually just write sum and sum, space this out a bit, let's see, and we get 18, which is correct. Okay, and even more nested work, so let's paste that, copy and paste, and say here a very nested list of numbers. So this is going to be a list of a list of a list of ends, like so. And then here I'll say new, and cut and paste this, Control K D to format, which isn't working for some reason. So let me just Control D this again. Okay, so we have this now, and now I want to get the sum of all of these. So how do I do that? I do it by using SelectMany twice. Okay, so let me copy and paste that. This is gonna be sum2, 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 and here I will just copy and paste this again, like so. And this is supposed to be the very nested list of numbers. Okay, let's see, F5, and we get 36. Okay, and finally let's get info about a person and their food. So var food, actually person food info. So data people, SelectMany, person fat arrow, person food, and now I'll pass a second argument here. Okay, so in parentheses, person food, fat arrow, and I'm gonna have a $sign and double quotes, and say here person name likes food name. Okay, so here, and let me just bring this down. Okay, and actually this one as well. So this person is coming from the outer collection, and this food is coming from the inner collection. Okay, and let's see, do I have one with new line here? I do. Copy that one just so I don't have to write it. So person food info. Okay, and let's see what we get. And there we go. John likes chicken, beef, grapefruit, and so on. Okay, Mary and Bob. Even though LINQ methods, as I said, don't really modify existing data, some LINQ methods are used to actually generate new collections. Let's see. I'm gonna say here var empty ends, and then enumerable, and I'll call empty. Okay, and end. So now let's check if this collection is actually empty. I'm gonna say if not empty ends any. In that case, I'll console log empty. Okay, so F5, let's see. And there we go. It is indeed empty. There's also repeat. Let's see. Var 10 copies, enumerable, and I'll say repeat. Okay, 1 and 10. So whatever this is, repeat it this many times. So let's see, 10 copies, paste that here, and plus string join, and let's just do this. Okay, F5, and there we go. We can also chain select and then print the index next to each word. Let's see, var copies with index, enumerable repeat, I'll say here banana, and repeat that 3 times, and then select, pass x and I here, so the index as well, and $sign double quotes, and I'll say here I plus 1 dot and x. Okay, let me just bring this down like so, and this as well actually, and copy that, paste, copy, paste, and paste. Okay, there we go. Let's just have a space here actually, here as well. Okay, there's also range, so let me copy this and paste that here. Let me say here 1 to 10. And this will be range, and copy. Okay, so we get this 1 to 10 range in this case. And finally there is default if empty, so let me copy that, Control D, and let me actually, I'll use the numbers from data here. So this right here, call this default if empty, and let me actually get rid of this. So data, import that, numbers, default if empty. Okay, and this isn't empty, this numbers array. So let's see what happens, and because it's not empty, it simply copies the existing content. Okay, ToLookup and GroupBy are used to group elements of a collection by some criteria. Say we wanted to get the sum of prices for each food type. Okay, we would need to first group the prices by type and then calculate the sum of prices within each group, right? So with LINQ we could solve this problem by using either ToLookup or GroupBy. Let's see. I'm gonna say here var food price by type lookup. Okay, I'm gonna say here data food and ToLookup, And now here basically I pass a key and a value. Okay. So I'm gonna say here food, fat arrow, food type, and food price. Okay. Let's just bring this down like so. Okay. So this is the key and this is the value right here. Okay. Let's now create a dictionary based on this. And let me get rid of that actually. I'm gonna say here var sum of prices by type and the food price by type lookup to dictionary, and in here I'll say lookup fat arrow, and again this can be anything of course, but I'm calling it lookup here, so lookup and key. Okay, and then lookup fat arrow lookup, and I'll call sum, and that should actually work. So let me bring this down and this as well, and these like so. Okay, and let's copy and paste that here and see what we get. And there we go, we get meat with the total of this, fruit with this, and vegetables with this. Okay, let's now do the same thing using GroupBy. So I'm just gonna actually copy and paste this whole thing. I'll call this groupings. So this will now be GroupBy, and this will just have 2 at the end, and let's just call this X here now then, so it doesn't say lookup. And this is 2 and 2. So let's see, F5, and we get the exact same thing, right? So what's the difference? We can see here if we hover over this variable here, it's an I lookup, and here that is, it's an I grouping, I enumerable of I grouping. Okay, so ToLookup uses immediate execution and GroupBy deferred execution. So let's say you wanted to query a remote database with a billion rows in it, you would definitely want to use GroupBy. Okay. Intersect finds elements that belong to both collections. So here I have these 2 arrays. Okay, so let's do var numbers intersect and say here numbers 1 intersect numbers 2, and copy and paste. So what do we get? We get the numbers that repeat themselves in both, so 4, 5, 6. Okay, and except, let me copy and paste this and just call this numbers except. Except takes from the first collection what is not present in the second collection. Okay, so let's see what this gives us. Copy and paste, F5, and we get 1, 2, 3. Okay, Aggregate is a very powerful method. We could actually implement most of the functionality that LINQ provides using this method only. It applies an accumulator function over a collection, which means that we can have a function that will be executed for each element in a collection, and each execution will keep altering the existing result. Let's see this in practice. Let's calculate the sum of numbers without using the sum method. Okay, so var sum of numbers, data, numbers, aggregate, and then here I need to pass 2 arguments. So I'll pass sum and next number. Again, this can be called anything, of course. I usually call this just next, but now I want to be more specific or more descriptive. And I'll say then fat arrow sum plus next number. Okay, so now for each iteration basically this sum will contain the latest or accumulated result, and plus whatever is next. Okay, so let's console log that like so. Let's see, and we get 341, which I guess is the sum of this. Okay, let's use it to find the longest word. So I'm gonna say var words here, red, green, blue, like so, and then var longest word, words split. Let me just have this as double quotes, aggregate, and again I need to pass here 2 arguments. So I'm gonna say longest so far, and the next word fat arrow, and the next word length. So if it's greater than longest so far length, in that case next word, otherwise is the longest so far. Okay, and let me just bring this down and this, and close that. Okay, get rid of that one, and copy and paste longest word. Let's see, and we get green, which is correct. We don't really need this join here, so let's actually get rid of it. Doesn't really make a difference, but still, just to be tidy. Okay, let's join strings by a comma, so same as string join, and we can use these words from here for that because we need a collection. Var joint words, and I'll say data, import that words, aggregate, and result so far, and the next fat arrow, and result so far, plus a comma and space, and next. Okay, let's again bring this down like so, and copy and paste that, so joint words, and I'm gonna say here string join, and just no space there, and joint words. Okay, F5, let's see, and there we go. Okay, and finally let's create a collection of length of words. So var all lengths, words split again. So I'm using words from here. Okay, not these ones here. So word split, aggregate, lengths collection, and the next, and fat arrow, lengths collection, append, next length. Okay, I have a bit of a problem here. Let me just bring this down and then see what's actually happening here. So what does this say? Length collection is not null here, and that is because we need some kind of a value or something to start with. Okay, and for that we can actually pass another argument to aggregate here as the first argument actually, which is called a seed. So for that I'm gonna, let me just tab, I'm gonna say enumerable empty int. Okay, so let's see now, all lengths here, and let's actually have a new line here, and here as well. Okay, and 354, which is correct. Okay, zip applies a specified function to elements of 2 collections, producing a collection of results. Let's see. I'm gonna say here var numbers zipped with words. Okay, so I'm gonna say data, and need to import this again, and numbers zip data words, and then I need to pass 2 arguments here, so number and word it will be, and say here number and comma word. Okay, let's see, just bring this down like so. Okay, and let's copy this and paste it here and here. F5, and there we go. So even though there are more numbers than words, it's fine. It takes what it can get basically. Okay, so we have like 7 numbers here or 8 and just 3 words, which is fine. Let's now have 2 collections of countries and currencies. So var countries and a new array, and this will be USA and Japan, and control D that, so this is currencies, USD and yen. Let's now turn these into a dictionary, so I'm gonna say var country currency dictionary, and that's gonna be equal to countries zip currencies. Okay, and I'm not passing a function here as a second argument. Okay, so now this will just be tuples. Okay, a collection of tuples. So I can say to dictionary and tuple or whatever, but I'll just call it tuple, fat arrow, and then tuple first and tuple second. Okay, let's bring this down like so, and copy actually this, so paste and paste F5, and there we go. USA, USD, Japan yen. Okay. So far we've been using the method syntax only. Let's now start using the query syntax. Let's order the numbers, and they are ordered actually here. So let me just have a 1 here and then a 6 here, for example. Get rid of the 6 here and the 1 there. Okay. Let's have 200 here, and that's fine. Control key D just to format this a bit. So anyway, here I'm gonna say var ordered numbers, and this is gonna be equal to from number in and data. Whoops, need to import this. Okay, numbers, order by number, and select number. Okay, so that's how it works with the query syntax. Let's copy and paste that there and there, F5, and there we go. Okay, we can also use a variable here using let. So I'm gonna say here let times 2, and that's gonna be equal to number times 2. Okay, and then order by times 2 and select times 2. So if I have 5 now, I get everything times 2. Okay, let's order food descending by name. So I'm gonna say here var food descending. So from food in data food, order by food name and descending. No comma there, and select food. Okay, let me just copy and paste this line. So copy and paste that as well, F5, and there we go. Let's now order food by type and ID. So I'm gonna control D this and say here food by type and ID. So from food in data food, that's fine. Order by food type and get rid of descending, though you can keep it if you want, and comma food ID. Okay, and let's copy and paste this. So F5, And there we go. So we get the names, but by type as well. Okay. And if you wanted to use descending here, you would have to put it here and here, like so. Let's see. Okay. Or we could just reverse this. So I'm just gonna undo descending. And I want to use the reverse method from the method syntax because there is no reverse for the query syntax, but we can combine. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this in parentheses like so and say here reverse, and that should actually do it. Let's see, F5, and there we go. Okay, let's now use the where query syntax and find even numbers. So I'm gonna say here even and get rid of this. So here I'm gonna say where number and modulus 2 is equal to 0, order by number and select number. Okay, so let's copy and paste this. And there we go. And we can also have descending here. Let's see. Okay. Let's now find meat and fruit that cost more than 1 and have names longer than 4 characters. So let me Control D this. So this is gonna be specific food, and from food in data foods, food, where, and now I need to use parentheses because I want to check for 2 types. So food type is equal to food type meat, and food type is equal to food type fruit. Okay, and food price is over 1, and food name length is over 4, and finally select food. Okay, so let me just bring this down a bit, something like this. Let's now copy and paste, F5, and we don't get anything for some reason. Oh, I have and here, this was supposed to be or. Okay, F5 again. And there we go, chicken, grapefruit, and oranges. Okay. Oh, we can also do a count here, but again, you need to combine for count. So I'm just gonna get all of this into a pair of parentheses and call count here. Okay, so let's see now. And we get 3, which is indeed correct. Let's see how to use select query syntax in multiple ways. So here let's get double the numbers again, but using select only. So from number in data numbers, and get rid of this, and select number times 2 works as well. Okay, so just like that, Control D actually to format this a bit, and there we go. Let's uppercase the words, so Control D and the words uppercase. So this will be word and words, and select word to upper. Okay, let's copy and paste this. Whoops. And there we go. Let's now select food names. So I'm just gonna Control D that and say here food names. So from food in data food, and again guys, this can be called anything, right? It doesn't have to be food, it can be X, it's fine. So select food name, and that should do it. Paste that, F5, and there we go. Let's select food types that are priced more than 1, and you might want to try to do this yourselves, and I'm gonna do it now. Okay, So if you want to do it yourself, just pause the video right now. Anyway, I'm gonna Control D this and call this prices over 1. So from food in data food, and get rid of this for now. And I'm gonna say then where, not just where actually. And this is the query syntax. Food price is over 1. Select food and food type. Okay. So let's see. F5. And we get meat and fruit, but we get meat 3 times and fruit twice, which is correct, but we don't want that. So I'm gonna use distinct here. Okay, so wrap this in parentheses and distinct. Okay, and finally let's get the food names first letter and type and price and order them. So Control D this, and let me actually get rid of everything here. So food info, I guess I'll call this, from food in data food, order by food name, select, and $sign and double quotes. So here I'll say food name first, okay, and dot space and food type and $sign and food price. Okay, let me just bring this down like so and copy and paste this F5, and there we go. Okay, now let's see now how to use SelectMany using the query syntax. So here I'm gonna have a nested list of numbers. So var nested list of numbers, and that's gonna be equal to a new list of ends. Okay, and new 1 2 3. Control D that, my mouse got lost. Okay, so we have this, and now I'm gonna say var and all numbers. So I want to print all these numbers, and then from a list and nested list of numbers, and there is no SelectMany in query syntax. Okay, so what we do actually is we use from twice. So I'm gonna use from again here. I'm gonna say now from and number or whatever you wanna call it in a list now. Okay, so this list right here, that's what we're doing, and select number. Okay, and let's console log this. So all numbers and a new line, string join, new line here as well. Okay, and closing parenthesis there, and this is supposed to be a backslash, and this is supposed to be a plus, not a comma here. And let me space this out a bit. F5, and there we go. Okay, now let's select food from people whose names start with J. So var people food from person in data, and we need to import this now. Okay, people where person name starts with J, and then from, so again from, right? Food in person food. Okay, and then select food. So again here we are using from twice. Okay, let me copy and paste this, and this as well, F5, and there we go. And even more nested works with multiple froms. So let me copy this and paste that here. Say here very nested list of numbers. So this is going to be a list of lists of integers. And then here I'll say new and have this in here and the comma, get rid of, actually this is missing a semicolon, I guess. Let me just see what's happening here and copy and paste this again. Control D isn't really working, so I need to do this myself for some reason. Okay, that should do it finally, hopefully. And now let me actually copy from where was it, here, and I'm gonna call this flattened list, and let me copy actually the console write line as well. So from nested list in a very nested list of numbers, then from list in nested list, and then from number in list, okay, and select number. Get rid of that and copy and paste, and let's see, and there we go. Okay, so we're using 3 froms here. And the last thing to cover is using joins. Okay, and you can use joins with method syntax as well, and I didn't cover that because it's very messy and it's not really used. So you basically just use the query syntax for joins. And if you really want to do it using the method syntax, once you learn how to do it using the query syntax, you can go ahead and do it. But I'm just going to show you how to do it using the query syntax. And as you have seen so far, many things seem simpler, that is using the query syntax, but joins are really a must. So anyway, let's do an inner join. So I'm going to say var inner join here. And I want to join people and reservations. And that's stuff from data here that we haven't used so far. Okay, so we have these restaurants here. So just ID and the name of the restaurant, and we have these reservations here. So if I open reservation here, we have the restaurant ID and the person ID and the date. Okay, so pretty simple, nothing too special here. Just wanted to show you that we'll be using this new data now that we haven't used so far. So anyway, let's join people with their reservations. So inner join is going to be equal to from person in data food people, I mean, and now join reservation in data reservations, okay, on person ID equals, and it's actually equals, the word equals reservation and person ID, okay, so that's the match we're looking for. And now I'll say select, and I can do $, double quotes, and the person name, let's say, has a reservation on, and the reservation date. Okay, now let's just do it like so it's a bit more tidy. And let's see, so paste and paste. Does this even work? F5, and it does. Okay, let's now join 3 tables, these 2 plus the restaurant name. Okay, so var inner, let me actually just copy everything like so, get rid of this. So var inner join 3 tables, Control KD there just to format this a bit. So up to this point everything is the same, but then we do another join. So join restaurant, I'll call it, in data restaurants, okay, and now I'll say on reservation restaurant ID equals restaurant ID, okay, and that's it. This is supposed to be capital I. Okay, so that's basically it. So here I'll just add at the and name of the restaurant. So restaurant name. Okay, like so. And let's see. So inner join 3 tables, F5, and there we go. John has a reservation on this date at the vegetables restaurant and so on. Okay, great. And now finally let's do a left join, meaning return all the rows from the left table and the matching rows from the right table. So we want to return all the people regardless of whether they have a reservation or not, meaning, let's see here, we can see here the reservation ID, so 1, 2, and 3 basically. And if we go to people, where are people? Here they are actually. Bob has an ID of 4. Okay, so Bob doesn't have a reservation, but we still want to show Bob. So let's do that. And again, let's copy this inner join here and paste that here and call it a left join. So up to this point everything is the same, but then because it's a left join I'm gonna say here into, okay, person reservations, so kind of like a variable, and then I just continue doing the same thing, so from, and I'll call this single reservation or anything else really, in person reservations now, okay, and this is supposed to be plural, like so, and this is now supposed to be single reservation date, okay. So let's see if this works. It doesn't. We're missing Bob here. And that's because we need to add 2 person reservations here. In person reservations, default if empty. Okay. And let's see if this works now. And now we get an exception. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay. And that's because we need to have a question mark here. And now it should finally work, but let me just bring this down so it's easier to see what's happening. And this as well. Okay, so now it should finally work. F5. And there we go, we have Bob there as well. Okay, great. That's gonna be it for this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.